The Airbus A380 was designed to redefine aviation, a giant built to inspire awe and conquer the skies. But as the years passed, cracks in its promise began to emerge, and now it faces a haunting question. Was it a milestone or a financial misstep that flew too close to failure? Let's uncover the truth. It's the late 20th century and air travel is booming. Airports are a mess, flights are full, layovers are hours long, passengers are grumpy, and their patience wearing thin with every cramped seat and delayed connection. In a boardroom somewhere, Airbus executives sit down, crack their knuckles and say, let's change the game. The idea? Build a plane so big it would rewrite the rules of air travel. A double-decker monster, a flying palace. Their logic was simple but bold. Hub airports are overflowing. Solution? A bigger plane. Pack more passengers and clear the backlog in one go. The Boeing 747 has had its day. It's time to take on the king of the skies. People want luxury, showers, lounges, bars in the clouds. Make them feel like they're flying first class, even in coach. The vision wasn't big, it was massive. Airbus wanted to sell 1,200 of these giants, a fleet of A380s crisscrossing the globe, changing travel. Profits would soar along with the plane itself, but the reality was grim. The initial plan, build around 1,200 of these flying luxury liners, then sit back and watch the profits roll in. But the reality? The A380 didn't even crack 300 deliveries. Production stopped at a modest 251 units. Want to dive deeper into stories of ambition, triumph, and failure? Subscribe to our channel and hit like if you're inspired by the bold risk and lessons of the Airbus A380. After all, even when you aim for the skies, it's the journey that counts. This flying monster defies the laws of physics. This isn't just a plane, it's a monster of engineering. Imagine this, a wingspan of 261.8 feet, as long as two blue whales, and a height of 79.1 feet, or 5 giraffes stacked on top of each other, and wings that bend up to 4 meters during takeoff. Yeah, this thing is huge. And the innovation doesn't stop at just size. Airbus put some serious cool tech in the A380. Take its brake to vacate system. This lets pilots choose their runway exit in advance, reducing runway occupancy by 30% and keeping airports running like clockwork. Plus, it's quieter than most big planes thanks to its shape and its GP7000 engines. Inside, it's not just big, it's the biggest cabin in the sky, with a width of 21.3 feet and a floor area of 3 tennis courts. It's like a penthouse at 38,000 feet. The standard 4-class setup seats 545 people, but if you're in an economy-only mode, you can fit up to 853 people. That's a whole village in the air. But the road to "we're unstoppable" is often lined with pitfalls, especially when your masterpiece is so big it requires airports around the world to build new jet bridges and reinforce runways. Here's the short version. The world changed. There were market shifts. Airlines started favoring smaller, fuel-efficient planes like the Boeing 787 and the Airbus A350. These planes offered the convenience of bypassing major hubs and significantly lower operational costs, making them ideal for secondary city connections. There have also been economic and global events. Fuel prices started rising in the 2000s, and when you add major financial downturns and the overall unpredictability of global events, and you got an environment that's not exactly screaming, let's fill 500 plus seats on every flight. Then there's high operating costs. The A380 was expensive to operate, requiring nearly full flights to justify its cost per seat advantage. Its fuel consumption and needed for specialized infrastructure made it riskier than smaller, more efficient twin jets. Now let's add some logistical nightmares into the mix. The Airbus took a pan-European approach to manufacturing. Wings come from Wales, fuselage sections from Germany and France, tail fins from Spain, and everything has to be lugged across rivers, roads, and sometimes narrow city streets in the middle of the night. If you're picturing an oversized truck stuck in a medieval French village, blocking traffic with a giant airplane wing, you're not far off. And if that wasn't enough, the engineering team used 2 different versions of 3D modeling software that didn't necessarily talk nicely with each other. This mismatch resulted in wiring harnesses being misaligned, floor panels not quite fitting, and a whole lot of rework that delayed production by months. These delays, unsurprisingly, caused airlines to lose patience. Orders were cancelled or deferred, and Airbus had to take big financial hits to keep airlines from jumping ship. No discussion of the A380 is complete without mentioning Emirates. This Dubai-based carrier basically propped up the entire A380 program with a jaw-dropping 118 aircraft in its fleet. Emirates made the A380 work by using Dubai as a massive hub. This model thrives on connecting passengers from all over the world through one centralized location. That's basically the definition of hub and spoke, and the A380 was custom built for that scenario. But even Emirates eventually tapped the brakes. In 2019, it cut down on its A380 orders from 53 to 14, choosing to put its money elsewhere. That single decision forced Airbus to accept the inevitable. With its largest customers scaling back, there simply weren't enough new orders to keep production lines rolling. There were inherently design overreaches with weight and size issues. The A380 was optimized for a larger variant that was never built, resulting in excess weight and higher fuel consumption. Planning frightier versions also failed to materialize, with cargo operators favoring the Boeing 747. Recurring technical issues like wing cracks further dented its reputation. There were also infrastructure challenges, because not everyone loves giants. Now, airports love the prestige of the A380, in theory. It's like hosting the Super Bowl or the Olympics. It gets you on the map. But in practice, it's pricey to get ready for such a big plane. Airports needed to strengthen runways, expand taxiways, and build dual boarding bridges to handle the upper deck. London Heathrow spent millions in upgrades to welcome the plane. Some large airports could accommodate the A380, but chose not to invest further due to limited demand. So the A380's playground got limited to a few dozen airports worldwide that had the right gates, runways, and willingness to invest. That in turn meant fewer route options for airlines, which further cut into the A380's potential. There's also the problem with shiny and enormous isn't enough, as airplanes were shifting strategies. If you're an airline executive, you're always going to try to balance route profitability with passenger demand. In the 1990s, the approach was more like, get a giant plane if you're flying from major hub to major hub. But with the technology leaps in the early 2000s, smaller twin jets could now do what only big planes had done before, and they could do it cheaper. They used less fuel, had lower maintenance costs, and offered more scheduling flexibility. Why run a single A380 route from, let's say, Los Angeles to Tokyo, when you could run two smaller jets from Los Angeles and San Francisco, or maybe Dallas, and time them for different passenger segments? In that environment, the A380 started looking like a dinosaur before it even hit its prime. Many airlines simply concluded that two flights with mid-sized planes were more efficient, less risky, and better for capturing multiple markets than one giant plane that forced them to fill hundreds upon hundreds of seats. So a big question is, was it all for nothing? Well, the A380 wasn't a complete failure, but it did have big problems. Airbus spent around $25 billion on development costs and never recouped that. But what they did was impressive. The A380 was a massive step forward in engineering, certifying an aircraft of that size for safe flight. It introduced new systems for structural integrity, cabin pressurization, and aerodynamic efficiency that influenced future aircrafts. The passenger experience was great, feeling spacious and comfortable compared to old airplanes. Even the economy seats felt more humane. The A380 also relieved hub congestion in busy airports like London Heathrow, where every takeoff slot is precious. But outside of those big busy hubs, the A380 struggled to find its place. Its economics depended on a perfect alignment of factors, filling nearly every seat, stable fuel prices, and consistent demand. In an unpredictable market, airlines want flexibility, and that's what smaller twin engines can give them more of. Despite these challenges outlined, the A380 has experienced a resurgence in recent years. Airlines such as Emirates, British Airways, and Qantas have reintroduced the A380 to meet increased passenger demand post-pandemic. The A380 story is a lesson in ambition and timing. Sometimes a grand vision outpaces reality, and sometimes the industry bets on the wrong trend. But in its prime, the A380 was a marvel, flying high above the clouds and reminding us of the amazing things humans can do, even if that amazement didn't translate into lasting financial success. And that, dear traveler, might be just one of the most humbling lessons of modern aviation. Sometimes, your dream is too big for the market to handle, or maybe it's just not the right dream for the right time. In the end, maybe that's the real takeaway. Ambition will get you far, but adaptability will get you further. And that's something that every future airplane concept, and every big dreamer for that matter, should keep in mind. If you enjoyed this journey into aviation's past, present, and future, don't forget to subscribe for more insights and stories that inspire.